Interesting conversation. Of course, we will give you insights into all of that in the coming days of the import of what Atiku Abubakar said in Abeokuta. But for tonight, I'll focus in a few other things that are of national importance, which, of course, politically related issues and elections. A couple of major political events happened over the past days, one of which included the decision to change the date of the All Progressives Congress convention by a month. That generated a huge agitation within the ruling APC, and the ruling political association has had somewhat an intense internal wranglings over the past few days. The timetable for the general election was also released by INEC, while President Muhammadu Buhari signed the electoral bill into law. The president was on the same day he signed the bill, visited Nasarawa State, and the talks about the president's favoring a former Nasarawa State governor for the national chairmanship position was rife. Of course, well, there is one man who has come out, who was on this program, a former governor of Nasarawa State, a sitting senator, Tanko Al-Makura. But that is not what some people were talking about. They're talking about yet another one, the one who came before Tanko Al-Makura, that is being favored by the villa to be the next chairman of the APC. These are some of the internal talks and the conversation they've been having in the APC. But, well, the man who hosted the president, who sat beside the president, who saw the former governor also, he sat on the other side of the table at the luncheon when they had in Lafayette, the state capital. Let's speak and get some insight. Perhaps he's in the middle of all of this. He may be able to know if there's jostling and favoring of anybody that is coming from his state. He should know. I'm talking about the executive governor of Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule, who joins us live from Lafayette. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight. I think it's better for us to start the conversation around the visit of the president to your state. Perhaps that is going to be his first time cutting tapes for projects in your state, which I must say congratulations to you and your team in the state for some of these projects that the president launched. But give us a sense of perhaps the most fundamental of those projects that the president launched on that day. For you, how much of jobs, how much of the lives of the people of Nasarawa State would these projects make better?
Thank you very much, Sheun. I think first and foremost, let me thank you for putting me on the program this evening, and I want to sincerely show appreciation for that, because it gives me an opportunity also to express a great appreciation to Mr. President for coming for the two-day visit, here in Nasarawa State. We had both the state as well as the federal projects that were executed. But to give you an idea is that, let me start with our airport. The former administration of Tanko Al-Makura actually started an airport which was more or less a cargo airport because of the agricultural nature of Nasarawa State. And we also came with the idea of industrialization of the state. So the airport has really become very handy. So we had to rush and ensure that we finished the airport with very, very high-tech instrumentation all around, starting from the cabin to weather detection and everything, so that all kinds of aircrafts will be able to attend. So that's the first project on landing at the airport, Mr. President actually commissioned. And from there, we went to one of the ones that is very, very dear to my heart. That is the Institute of Technical and Vocational Education. We have a lot of graduates here in Nasarawa State with a lot of certificates, that they have, BS degree, MS degree, MA degree, BA, and the rest of that, and HND, and a lot of them, because of what they studied, it's very difficult for some of these people to get jobs. So what we decided to do is to come out actually with a technical institute so that the people can go and acquire skills in the various areas of technical and vocational education. And where did I get this idea from? If you remember, I was in Dangote when we were building the refinery in Lagos. And believe me, Sheun, we had to go at one point and bring into Nigeria fitters and welders and fabricators. At one time, we had close to 10,000 people, including engineers in Lagos, foreign people out of Nigeria. So I got the idea that if we can actually have this kind of skill institute where machining of CNC machine, that is computer numerical control machines, that is the latest technology today that we have. So we had to buy all those kind of machines, welding machines of TIG, MIG, and the rest of that also to install there. So that way we'll be able to get some of these certified fitters and welders
It appears we lost connection with Governor of Nasarawa State, Tanko Almakura. Of course, he's speaking about some of the projects that President Muhammadu Buhari cut state on in Governor Abdullahi Sule, beg your pardon, that some of the projects he launched in a few days ago on his two-day visit to the state, and he mentioned the airport project, the cargo airport project, and the skill acquisition center, which the president launched, and a few other issues that we're going to be taking the governor on tonight in relation to the internal affairs of the APC. The issue of the chairmanship seat of the APC, whether or not there is a favored candidate of President Buhari for that seat, and also the convention and some of the internal controversies that have raged on in the APC. I understand that Governor Abdullahi Sule is back with us. Please go ahead. You were talking about how dear the Skill Acquisition Center is for you.
Yeah, actually, we did the skill acquisition center, and of course, also we introduced a new idea, of most of the parks that we have because of the security challenges that we have in the country. So we developed two mega bus terminals, that one here in Lafia, and the other one that we have in Karu local government, because of all the heavy traffic that we have. Similar to what you see on Third Mainland Bridge, actually, we have that every day here during the weekdays, in Nasarawa, mostly because of the various motor parks that we have all across. So we are concentrating them on one side, and we are also introducing a new transport company of buses of all different kinds of sizes, and the buses also are going to use gas instead of either diesel or gasoline, for them. But then the federal government projects that we have, of course, he also commissioned some roads and the rest of that. But the biggest federal government projects we had is actually the substation. So you will imagine, Sean, that since I came to office, we have been using generator 24 hours in government house. So that's why when I heard about a substation, 330 substation that were going to come up, I developed special interest in that. And we went ahead and started, it's being built by the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, so we went into that, and then so he commissioned that as well. And today in Lafia, we are connected to the national grid. In fact, it is a 330, 132, and 33 kV line, that we are even going to start feeding Abuja now from here. So these are all the kinds of projects, that he has. Of course, he also commissioned our brand new central bank,
Governor,
that we have here in Lafia.
Before I get off some of the projects, all right. Before I got off some of these projects, which I try to allow you to mention and talk about the significance, is the viability of the cargo airport. When we look at the distance of Lafia, for example, to Abuja, and whether it is needed to have spent that kind of amount of money on constructing an airport, the question is, what export are you going to be doing? What crop? What local manufacturing? What is the initiative that cargo airport will serve locally to Nasarawa State?
Well, it will serve two purposes, Aisha. Number one, it is actually, even though in Nasarawa, but it is the closest airport to the villa in Abuja. So it can serve as a security airport. That is number one. Two, the in Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja is highly congested. If you remember, if you can see, the local line of that is now being used for all the private airlines. So it is the international side that is being used for both domestic as well as international. So we are constructing a route, that is linking that airport all the way to Kefi, which is just about 25 minutes from Abuja. So it can be used as an alternative airport, actually to Abuja. That is two. Now, coming back to the original reason why it was built, as you know, we have huge agricultural farms here in Nasarawa State. Number one, the biggest olam farms for rice. Most of the rice that you saw, for the pyramid they have in Abuja, you will imagine where that rice came from. So Olam has his biggest rice mill right here in Doma, which is next to Lafia. Dangote has his biggest sugar plantation nationwide here in in Nasarawa State, which is also here in our local government. Flour Mills is also going to have its own, and then Azuman is having its. Now, just yesterday, I met with Olam. They are also constructing another factory, which is going to be, according to them, the biggest for producing animal feeds, that they are having. So we have more and more of these projects coming in. But this airport can be used not just for cargo, it can be actually a security airport for Abuja. It can be used as an alternative airport to Nandi Azikiwe airport in Abuja. It can also be used for commercial flights because we don't have, Benue State doesn't have a commercial airport. Taraba doesn't have one, commercial airport where there is major activities. So the one here can be used, here in Nasarawa, and we will be able to connect with most of those places. So that's the reason why. So we're looking at all the options, not necessarily just for cargo.
All right, interesting. And hopefully some of these things will materialize in more money for the people of Nasarawa State, and we'll see how that pans out. I wish you the very best in those areas, Governor Sule. Let's go into some politics now. I know you are the #1 fan and campaigner for your predecessor, former Governor Tanko Makura. But it does look like what I'm hearing is a bit different now inside of the APC. We are understanding that the former Governor Abdullahi is now being favored by the Villa. Both of them were there. What happened? Why that switch? Is the president favoring? Can you clarify what's happening exactly to us?
Well, Shaun, there is absolutely no switch at all. In politics, you have that. Both of them actually were seeking for this position, but for us in the state, the first person to come out and start seeking for the position was my predecessor. And naturally, for me as a person, I should be able to support Tanko Almakura because Tanko Almakura had come out very strongly to support me when I was running for this office where I happen to be here today. So naturally, it will seem to show that I'm not an ingrate. I must also return that kind of favor to Tanko Almakura. So I supported him and I continue to support him. Not necessarily, but when you enter politics, a lot of things will happen. In fact, we went to the extent of having the stakeholders, the party stakeholders, including elected officials as well as the party and major stakeholders in the party endorsing Tanko Almakura. But you see, it is not only Nasarawa State that will select a national chairman. So we have 36 states in the federation. So if other states, and in fact, like you mentioned, the Villa and the rest of the other stakeholders come together to select Abdullah Adamu. Abdullah Adamu is also somebody we highly respect. He's a very experienced politician. He has been in politics when some of us were still in secondary school. He was a state chairman of the MPN when I was still in secondary school. He's somebody that I'm always with, somebody I have utmost amount of respect for, and somebody who is very, very experienced in this. So we don't have anything against Abdullah Adamu. It's just that when you have two people, as a human being, you must take a position. And somebody like me, I can't be hiding my position. I have to show it. So that's the reason why I have showed that I support Tanko Almakura. But if it turns out that our leaders and the party have decided on Abdullah Adamu, believe me, both Tanko Almakura and I will respect that and will also support Abdullah Adamu to emerge. And I think that's really the response we have.
Governor Sule, were you able to discuss this with President Buhari? You had him one-on-one. He was your guest. You were the host. You had him in Lafayette for 2 days.
Well, we had a meeting
that may be
with
some
the
priority
president.
for you. Were you able to have that conversation with the president and why he's choosing former Governor Aliyu?
Yes, all the governors actually had a meeting with Mr. President last Tuesday. And during the meeting, Mr. President clearly informed us that he was, as far as he's concerned, he would wish that somebody from the North Central, is selected. And then since he mentioned that there had been a lot of rumors that came up, but, it's not in my position to go and start asking him, who is the person, this and that, because we have line of communication with Mr. President. And I saw also in the news today that somebody from the Villa had come out to say Mr. President had not yet made a decision. But when he was here in Nasarawa, I was focusing more on development that will be coming to Nasarawa, especially that we are going to have a meeting of the APC governors on Tuesday, where some of these things will be clear. So I didn't want to take so much time and distract Mr. President from the developmental strides that we are making and the future of the state, and start discussing about the politics, because I didn't know how that discussion will go. So believe me, I didn't discuss it with him.
So you are caught in between now. If you were to choose, let's assume that I'm the president now, and I'm asking you, Governor Sule, it's up to you to decide. I want a national chairman from Nasarawa State. Choose between Tanko Amakura and his predecessor. Who would you choose?
No, but I told you that one actually is even an aftermath. As a state, we had already the stakeholders at the meeting where I was present. The stakeholders came together and endorsed Tanko Almakura. And the reason is simple. They chose Tanko Almakura because Tanko Almakura was the first to come out before Abdullahi Adamu. As you know, Abdullahi Adamu was not actually so keen and so interested in this. Tanko Almakura has been. He has been all over the place. He has been campaigning. He has been doing that, but Abdullahi Adamu was not. So naturally, most of the party stakeholders came together and say, let us go ahead and endorse Tanko Almakura so that the nation could also support him. So that's the idea. But as I said, the selection of national chairman is beyond just Nasarawa State. If majority of the states, in fact, is beyond even 10, 15 states, so if majority of the states nationwide say is Abdullah Adamu, somebody we respect, somebody we love, somebody we admire, somebody we also strongly believe that he has the capacity to do. Believe me, even my own selection, that is Tanko Almakura, he will abide by it. So it's not just me.
All right. So let me ask you then, as a party internally, maybe by a way of intention or thinking or body language, decided on where the presidency will be zoned, because it's by convention, political parties here in Nigeria, which your party has also abided by over the years, wherever the national chairman of the party comes from, the opposite angle is where the presidential candidate comes from. Has your party decided on the zone where the presidency will come from? For example, southeast or southwest or southwest?
No, I don't think the party has gone to that stage yet. What we are trying to do is to take one step at a time. Like you mentioned, the convention, the tradition, usually is that when chairman comes from this side, the president will come from the other side. But I think you are seeing what the PDP is going through at the moment. They are going through. Just yesterday, I was told that my big boss, Atiku Abubakar, has clearly said he was going to pick the ticket when the chairman is from Benue State. So you can see it going back and forth. So I think we may see things differently this time around. If you ask me personally, I've always given you my own views as a person, but just like with the national chairman, I may want something and then the party may decide on something else. So the truth of the matter, and as a party man, I will be loyal to it, I will follow it. But the truth is that I've always said, there are qualified people who have the capacity to lead this nation from every state of the federation. So all you have to do as a party is give the people the chance and say produce, and they will produce somebody. But it is up to the leaders of this party to be fair, and I believe in fairness. And I believe very strongly that all this distribution of powers, rotation of powers, this and that, bring about peace and tranquility. For me, as a governor, all I want is peace. Once I have peace, I will be able to make all the achievements that I have had. And the president came and we were very excited about it, is because we had peace in Nasarawa State. If we didn't have peace in Nasarawa State, it would have been very difficult to achieve what we have achieved because we don't have the money. Somebody may argue that, yes, they are achieving a lot in some states where there is no peace. But look at the sources of the revenue of those states. Most of those achievements are developments that are being made by people who feel, oh, well, sorry, this thing has happened to you. This is that. We want to get up and be able to do something. And peace on its own, really, is what every
Governor
nation...
Sule, let me ask you, since you mentioned fairness, in your own view, what is fairness in terms of the rotation of power? For 2023, what is the underlying statement of fairness? What would be fair?
No, I have told you this over and over, Sheun. I will not be afraid at this stage of my life, to be mixing words without me going straight to the point. I have been straight to the point many times that it's fairness that has brought me in. Otherwise, I come from the minority zone. that if the majority zones decide they are not going to have rotational governorship, then they probably I will never have been a governor. Because I come from a zone that we are very, very, in fact, the total number of voters in the 3 local governments from that zone is not even up to the total number of votes in Lafayette local government alone. That's the zone I come from. So how can I come from there out of fairness and rotation and now come and say I'm against rotation? So I have never mixed my words. I've always said that fairness will have been to rotate the presidency, to the south. This I have never mixed my words about it. And that's why I keep saying in every state you go to, out of these 36 states and the federal capital, you will always find a competent person. You'll always find somebody who believes in Nigeria, who can actually develop Nigeria. So the question is not about whether you can have a competent person. So here in APC, we have seen what the president has done. Believe me, even with the area of the economy that a lot of people are making mistakes. I was discussing during my speech and telling the president that even on the economy, we have made landmarks. Just today, I saw in the news on the same channels, how many blending plants for fertilizer that were there in 2015 when the president came in, 5. Today, you have 41 in the nation. How many dams were there? Today, you have over 50 of them. How many? So it's so many things. When you look at about the economy, the pyramids you see of rice that we have in agriculture, we didn't have that. And we had that some 50 years ago in Kano. We never had that. All that rice is locally, no imported rice among that rice. So I think when the economy things are moving, look at the capital market. What is happening in the capital market? The total, capital index in the market in 2015 was just about 11 trillion. Today is over 25 trillion. So what are we talking about? We have companies today in Nigeria making PBT of over 300 billion naira. And where is that money going? They have a payout ratio of over 70%. They are returning that money to the shareholders. So the economy dependent on who you talk to and where you are talking about. These are the issues, because that's the one area that they continue to hit.
Let me again pick this. And I say, get your view on this. Yeah. So if, for example, and the northern state 19 over the southern state of 17, and if you take the top 10 states in terms of voting population, out of the 10, you take at least 5 or 6, that's 6 in the list coming from the northern region of the country. I mean, obviously, there are more voting population in the northern region of the country. Where the north goes, there the votes goes at our elections. So it's an obvious fact. Now, the question is, if your party, for example, goes south for the presidency, and the PD, for example, goes north, how tricky would that be for your party?
It wouldn't be any tricky. And if you look at it, in 2003, our presidential candidate in PDP was from the south. The opposition was from the north. Coincidentally, happens to be the same Muhammadu Buhari, who turned out to be the president, a southern president. So it all depends on what the leaders get together to decide. If they decide this is the direction it's going, believe me, it will go in that direction. So that's why I say it depends on the leader. So it's not necessarily because if the PDP produces a northern candidate and then the APC produces a southern candidate, it depends on the candidate and it depends on the leaders. It depends on our commitment, on how much work we are going to do. And if we are not going to play anti-party, if we say that it is going to be right, whoever we produce, that's the candidate we stand for, that candidate is going to come out. That's the truth.
So, as it is right now, the convention will determine a whole lot for your party. Now, the electoral act the electoral bill has been signed into law, which, of course, consensus is also one of the adopted mode of primaries that your party, the president signed and the National Assembly approved. So going into that convention, consensus will be very critical, isn't it? And how fundamental would that be? How easy will it be for your party to arrive at consensus going into the election? Would it require the president stepping into the arena in this case?
No, I think as far as the convention is concerned, most likely we're going to come out with consensus candidates, so that's how the election is going to be carried out, by consensus. So if we decide before going to the to the convention that this is the direction that things are going to be. Most likely, even Mr. President, I believe, will be willing to sit down with the aspirant and say, you know what, let's go consensus. That way we won't have a problem, this and that. And I think Mr. President even made an appeal that as far as this convention is concerned, because all the other chairmen that we have had in the past, actually came out by consensus. None of them went through any election, So, and I think that's the reason why we are going to work on it. And then it will go like that also into the presidential election, I believe. Hopefully. So when we get to that, selecting who is going to be our president, most likely it will be done also by consensus, hopefully. And at the end of the day, if we can do that, that's fine. If we are not able to do that, we'll do indirect, most likely. And that's why you see some of us were concerned about the idea of the Electoral Act, boxing us into saying that it has to be only, one line, either direct or nothing else. So that's the reason why we showed that. I'm happy and I congratulate the National Assembly actually for changing their mind on that to now have the various options, because it depends on the situation. There are situations where any of the three will be the best for that particular situation.
So you said that the governors will have a meeting on Tuesday. What are we expected to see come out of that meeting?
Well, we are hoping that we can come out with clearer positions. I believe I'm not the chairman of the PGF, the governor of Kebbi is, and then I'm not also the chairman of the caretaker committee, the governor of Yobe is. But I believe, I was only invited to the meeting just like any other governor. So I believe when we go to the meeting, based on the agenda that we see, a lot of discussions will be a little bit clearer. A lot of negotiations will be done. Whoever will be the national chairman, the secretary, about the zoning of the various offices will be carried out. About whether we are now going to have, zonal congresses, or we are just going to put together the national congress at the convention together with the zonal congresses as it has been done in the past. So I believe those are the kinds of things that will be discussed and clarified.
You've seen the election schedule. How does that come to you as a governor? I mean, election is upon us already, because in the next 2 months, the party also should be thinking of getting a presidential candidate. How does that come to you, though?
Well, it comes with excitement. That's democracy working. So I think it's very exciting, that our democracy is working gradually. The president signed the law on Friday, soon after he left Nasarawa. In fact, we took him, Nasarawa just bid goodbye to him, and then on arrival in Abuja, he went ahead and signed the electoral act, so, and so as far as I'm concerned, the INEC now came out in order to meet up with the deadline of 1 year before the election. Now they submitted the timetable, and the timetable is very clear. I don't see any problem with it. From our own side, we're happy with what we're seeing.
Thank you so much, Governor Abdullahi Sule, for talking to us. Governor of Nasarawa State, thank you indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you so much. So sorry about all the network issues. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know it could be frustrating sometimes, but we understand. Thank you so much.